Pick up your phone. Open it. The phone was made by Apple. The app you just opened runs on Google. The music is on Spotify. You bought those headphones on Amazon. You pay with a Visa card through your bank. Tonight you will watch Netflix, order food through an app, and check your balance before bed. Tomorrow you fill up at a gas station and grab groceries at a supermarket you always use. Here is something nobody told you. Every single one of those companies has the exact same two investors at the very top of its ownership list. The same two names on every single one. And you have almost certainly never heard of either of them in your life. Their names are BlackRock and Vanguard. This is the story of how two companies you have probably never heard of ended up owning a piece of almost everything you use every single day. They did not break any laws. They did not trick anyone. They just had a boring idea. And that boring idea, left alone for 50 years, quietly took over the world before most people even noticed. To understand how this happened, you need to understand one simple thing first. It is called an index fund. Do not let the name put you off. It is genuinely very simple once someone explains it. Before index funds existed, investing worked like this. You hand your money to a professional, someone who works on Wall Street and spends all day picking stocks. Their job is to figure out which companies are going to go up in value. They charge you for this service, usually about 1 to 2% of your total money every single year. In return, they promise to make you more money than the market average. Here's the problem. Decade after decade, study after study, the results kept coming back the same way. Most of these professionals could not consistently beat the average return of the stock market over the long run. You were paying someone serious money every year for a job they were not actually doing better than a coin flip. A man named John Bogle looked at all of this in 1976 and had a very simple idea. If the experts cannot beat the average, just buy the average. He started a company called Vanguard and created a fund that did exactly that. Instead of picking stocks, it bought a small piece of every single company in the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies in America, and held them all forever. No guessing, no trading, no expensive decisions. Just own a tiny bit of everything and let time do the work. Because nobody was making active decisions, fees dropped to almost nothing. Vanguard funds today charge about 0.03% per year, 3 cents on every $100 you put in. Wall Street hated this. They called it Bogle's folly. Settling for average felt like giving up. But the math destroyed their argument. A 1 to 2% annual fee sounds like nothing. Over 30 or 40 years, it silently eats an enormous chunk of your money. We are talking about potentially losing a third of your entire retirement savings just to fees. Bogle was not offering something worse. He was offering something genuinely better. Regular people slowly figured this out, then quickly, then the money absolutely flooded in. Vanguard kept growing through the 80s and 90s. Then in 1988, a second company entered the picture from a completely different direction. BlackRock was founded in New York by 8 people, including a man named Larry Fink. They focused on managing risk for massive clients like pension funds and governments, not regular investors. Huge institutional money. They were exceptionally good at what they did, so good that when the 2008 financial crisis nearly collapsed the global economy and the US government needed someone to help manage the toxic assets destroying the banking system, they did not call a government department. They called BlackRock. A private company was handed one of the most important financial operations in American history. Then, in 2009, BlackRock made one single move that changed everything. They bought a company called Barclays Global Investors. Inside, it was a product called iShares, which made things called ETFs. ETFs are basically index funds that anyone can buy instantly through any investing app on their phone. Easy to access, very cheap, available to absolutely anyone. That one deal transformed BlackRock into the single biggest investment company that has ever existed on Earth. Today, BlackRock manages around $13.9 trillion in assets. Let that actually sink in for a moment. The entire US economy, everything America produces in a full year, is worth around $30 trillion. BlackRock alone manages nearly half of that number. Vanguard manages around 10 trillion on top of that. Together, these two companies are responsible for almost $24 trillion, dollars, more than every country on earth except America and China, more than Japan, more than Germany, more than all of Europe put together. And none of that money is sitting doing nothing. It is invested in the exact companies you were just thinking about at the start of this video. Here are the actual numbers, all from public records anyone can look up right now. Apple, the most valuable company on the planet. Biggest shareholder, Vanguard at 8.7% of all shares. Second biggest, BlackRock at 7.7%. Together, they own more than one in every 6 Apple shares that exist on Earth. Check Microsoft. Vanguard, 9%. BlackRock, 7.5%. Same names in the same order. Check Google, Amazon, Nvidia, ExxonMobil, JP Morgan Chase, Coca Cola, Walmart. The answer never changes. Research shows that BlackRock, Vanguard, or a third similar company called State Street is the single largest shareholder in roughly 88% of the 500 biggest companies in America. BlackRock alone holds the top position in 38 of them. All of this is in public documents called SEC filings. Not hidden, not secret. Most people just never thought to check. And then there is the detail that stops everyone cold when they hear it. Vanguard is the biggest shareholder in BlackRock, and BlackRock is one of the biggest shareholders in Vanguard. The two largest investment companies on earth own each other. They sit at the top of the ownership list of almost every major company on the planet. And they own each other. So why should you actually care about any of this? 3 reasons worth understanding. First, voting power. When you own shares in a company, you get to vote on real things. Who sits on the board? How much executives get paid? Where the company goes next? Because BlackRock and Vanguard own a piece of basically every big company on earth at the same time, their combined voting power over how those businesses are run is bigger than any government, any billionaire, or any other investor in the history of capitalism. Nobody else comes close. Second, competition. If you personally owned shares in every major American airline at the same time, United, Delta, American, Southwest, all 4 simultaneously, would you want them going to war on prices and driving profits down? Or would you prefer a calm, stable industry where everyone makes good money? Researchers have found real evidence that when one large investor owns stakes across companies that are supposed to compete with each other, competition tends to go soft and prices tend to go up for regular customers. Airlines are one of the most studied examples of this. Regulators in America and Europe have opened formal investigations into it. Third, and this cuts the other way entirely, Vanguard is owned by its own funds, which means it is effectively owned by the people who invest in it. Tens of millions of regular people, teachers, nurses, factory workers, anyone with a retirement account that includes index funds probably has money in Vanguard right now without even knowing it, which technically makes them a tiny part owner of every company Vanguard holds shares in. So, a lot of this money actually belongs to ordinary people just like you. That does not make the concentration of power any less real, but it makes this story a lot messier than it first appears. Here is where we end up. Bogle had a genuinely good idea in 1976. Low fees, own everything, let time do the work. Millions of people have better retirements today because of index funds, and that is completely real. But nobody modeled what happens when that idea wins so completely that 2 companies end up at the top of the shareholder list of almost every major corporation on earth at the exact same time. Nobody planned this. Nobody broke any rules. The math worked, the money followed the math, and 50 years later, here we are. 2 companies most people have never heard of now sit at the very top of the ownership structure of your phone, your bank, your supermarket, your airline, your streaming service, and the screen you are watching this on right now. Nobody voted for this. Nobody designed it deliberately. It grew from millions of ordinary people making sensible decisions about their retirement savings, one index fund at a time, across 50 years until it became something nobody had a name for when it started. And we are all still trying to figure out what it means. If this changed the way you see something you thought you already understood, that is exactly what this channel is here for. Subscribe, leave a comment with what you want covered next, and like the video if you made it this far. See you in the next one.